Hello everyone and welcome to Vocabulary Unit 4. Here we go. We have about 8 terms that are on this paper right now and we shall begin. Okay, so there's a term on the list right now that denotes why Enlil and some of the other gods sent the flood to wipe out the people of Uruk, and that was because they were too boisterous. Okay, when we talk about someone who is boisterous or a group of people who are boisterous, we're saying that they're loud, somewhat violent, perhaps even belligerent or rough, noisy. And it seems a kind of petty reason to be sending a flood, but nonetheless, that's what happens in Gilgamesh, right? Another term could denote the behavior of Agamemnon, especially towards Chryses. He seems somewhat boorish, somewhat rude and crude and ill-mannered, especially when he refers to Chryses' daughter as going back to Argos and warming his bed. We have the word bolt twice. We know that as a noun, it's a flash of lightning. We call it a lightning bolt. Or we can use a bolt on a door, like a sliding bar on a door. It could also be a bolt of cloth, a sliding bar on a door. Or a bolt of cloth could be a measurement of cloth. But to have to bolt something together is to fasten. We had to bolt together the two pieces of wood with a pin, right, to fasten with a pin. And in colloquial terms, when we say to bolt, we say that you are moving suddenly, to move rapidly. He bolted from the room. Getting back to the Iliad, spurning the priest of Apollo does not bode well for the Greeks, right? Does not foreshadow or predict or portend that things are going to work out for them, especially since they offended someone who's a priest of Apollo. Before sailing for Troy, the Greeks knew that they needed to have Odysseus, so they considered it a boon to have Odysseus join their army because of the prophecy that said they would not win without him. So a boon is a welcome blessing, a sort of benefit. What a boon to mankind that is. If you think about the journey to the Garden of the Gods and how Gilgamesh keeps getting the answer that there is no permanence, at least this one goddess tries to bolster his spirits. She tries to support or prop up his spirits by telling him there are some things that as a human you can enjoy. Eat, drink, be merry, love your wife, hold the hand of your child, for this too is the lot of man. And lastly, the word bohemian actually came from a pejorative term to describe the Romanian gypsies who originated in Bohemia. So now, anytime you talk about the word bohemian, it means having unconventional social habits. You're kind of a rebel of sorts. Unconventional social habits. Someone who is bohemian might have a certain look about them. They live a free, vagabond type life. We'll see that lifestyle when we do the symbolists in France later on in the 19th century. Okay, moving right along, we have two words that go hand in hand. One is an adjective and one is a noun. They both could apply to Theseus. He comes across as somewhat brazen, somewhat rude or insolent, and some people might even call Theseus a bit of a braggart, right? Because of his, am I not the bravest king alive? This is a person who is very offensive and offensively arrogant or boastful person. Look what I did to the Amazons. Look what I did to the Minotaur. And then, of course, we know what winds up happening to him. But perhaps at one point when he was in the labyrinth, he brandished his sword, which means to wave about menacingly. Maybe he did that before beheading the creature. Who knows? If you go back to sonnets last year, Elizabeth Barrett Browning, in her famous sonnet, she asks, "How do I love thee? Let me count the ways." And she says, "I love thee to the depth and breadth and height my soul can reach." The breadth of something is its scope, the measurement of it, the extent of it. Again, keeping with that sort of love theme, Romeo and Juliet have a lovely speech to one another where Juliet says her love is as boundless as the sea. Boundless meaning without boundary, right? Without limits. And since we are on boundless, let's do bountiful. That's also very generous, showing abundance. We don't get to meet this character because he's not in any of the excerpts that we are reading, but Ajax is known for his brawn, his muscular strength, his power. "Once more unto the breach, dear friends, once more," famous line from Shakespeare. But a breach is a breaking of something, a breaking of a contract. It could be the breaking up of land. It could be a fissure, a kind of split, a gap. There is certainly a breach within the Greek troops when Agamemnon fights with Achilles. In the war with Troy, one of the most powerful defenses that the city has, or one of the most powerful bulwarks, is its wall, the city walls. So you could say a bulwark is a strong defense, or even a person who defends. Alexander Pope is an author you remember from last year, and he believed in brevity in his writing, conciseness. So did Ernest Hemingway in America, so that there are no superfluous words in their writing. Brevity comes from the word brief, obviously. To go to the store and not buy anything, but to look around, is simply to browse, which is to examine in a casual way. And then, of course, let's see. Think about the journey to Canterbury. There actually is someone on the journey who has a brooch with the inscription Amor vincit omnia. A brooch is an ornamental pin or clasp. You'll see that brooches come in handy in the play Oedipus Rex, without saying too much about that. But who is the person with the Amor vincit omnia? None other than the prioress, right? We know the word buffet as a noun, but this pronunciation is buffet. To buffet someone is to punch or to hit. Think about what Tom Buchanan does to Myrtle Wilson when they're at the party at the apartment, just because she says the name Daisy over and over again. He buffets her in the nose, breaks her nose. When something is easily broken or shattered, it's brittle. His bones were brittle as he grew older and older. And if you suffer the brunt of someone's anger, you suffer the shock or the impact of their anger. Remember the soothsayer who's afraid because he doesn't want to suffer from the brunt of Agamemnon's anger? That man, of course, is Calchas. He's afraid to broach, to open up, to bring up the topic, right? To open up for discussion. He's afraid to broach the idea that Agamemnon's responsible for the plague. Okay, there you go. Unit 4.